to the club, everyone talks about the Olivines as like that's the place to get to. So I think it just gets set in the mind that that's where you want to go. And I think the remoteness, that sort of very wilderness area is certainly a special area.
And you don't need a lot of climbing necessarily, climbing knowledge to do it. It's, you know, not like, there is a bit of glaciers in there, but it's not technical.
Yeah. So you're going somewhere that's special, it's different. You've got a chance to really test yourself, you know, with the weather and the people you're with and your equipment. You're out there on your own. There was no huts, not really any tracks on that whole trip.
You're going places that other people don't normally go. 3 days from anywhere. I could walk in any direction for 3 days until you get to somewhere.
I think there's a bit of culture. People before you went to the Olivines that talk about, there was an article in Outdoors, the 7 ages of trampers, and the 6th or 7th age, the person was sort of the club veteran, and one of the descriptions was rumoured to have done a big trip to the Olivines or somewhere. It's a really beautiful place, but it's also relatively accessible. When we're opposing big developments in places like Fiordland, people say, oh, but you've got all of Fiordland. It doesn't matter if we put a monorail or a tunnel or a gondola or that there. And you think, well, actually, most of Fiordland is actually really, really, really hard travel. Any reasonably fit, capable tramper with at least someone who knows a little bit about navigation in the party can do it. You don't have to be a technical mountaineer or a superman.
January 65, he landed me with Tex Smith at the barrier strip, and I just immediately chugged it away because, believe me, it was the rarest flying trip I've been anywhere. Trevor and I went looking for a route up onto the Olivine Plateau from there. Well, we eventually got in by climbing about 3 mountains on the way and had a fairly great time getting in, but then something happened.
We were all ready to knock off the peaks, beautiful weather, and Howard went over to put some what he thought water onto the boiling water that was on the primus, and it turned out to be white spirit because the can wasn't labelled, a good lesson. And it exploded and shot across the tent, and the tent went up and some of it fell on Henry. He was badly burnt around the face.
Yeah, they burnt the tent down around me actually. Then Trevor decided that we had to get some help. You know, he took off on about a 3.5 day thing, did it in 26 hours. Just amazing. Howard was with me. We gradually walked our way down. I don't quite know how we got down to the Olivines strip. So I spent a couple of days, I think it was, in this meat shooter's safe, trying to keep the flies off me. As time went on, we still wanted to get to the Olivines. That was one of the great things I remember.
And after that I decided, well, I joined Search and Rescue, and I was in Search and Rescue for 43 years.
Experience we had was on the Olivine Ice Plateau, and we were at that time 17. And we'd already spent a week we flew into the plateau. So we were the second party in 10 years to fly into the plateau, and we dug a snow cave and we were there for a week. And then coming off the plateau, got into some difficulty.
Really very steep. So he put in a fixed belay and the person behind him came round and slipped.
So he slid down to this crevasse.
And we could see the head of the ice axe doing this. We were on a rope behind the 3 of us. So Bob dropped his end of the rope, dropped his pack, and shot across to put another ice axe in, thinking the ice axe was going to break. But in fact, he lost his footing too, so he skidded down.
He went away down. And you can see the Forgotten River way down there, and here we are on the edge of this, and we didn't have a clue how we were going to ever get off that if those guys had gone down the crevasse. And what would we have done? Because in those days there were no radios. Took Garth's pack off him and just went with his hands and his crampons and got back up to Bobtown. Continued on our trip, and only to run into a worse situation, which it was the hard ice.
It was really hard.
Really hard, and they were cutting steps. By this time, of course, day was running out. I don't know if I recall that I was scared then, but looking back on it, I think we were bloody lucky.
Yeah. And the thing is, we ended up marrying the guys.
The Olivine Ice Plateau became something of a magnet in the 70s. In fact, one day in January 1973, there were a grand total of 21 Tramping Club members on the Ice Plateau, making it somewhat more like a club snow paddling trip to the Old Woman Range in the middle of the finest wilderness area anywhere.
Oh, the ways that I've got into the Olivines have largely been through the root burn, rock burn, beans burn, and the Olivine gorge from the pike. Always wanted to go onto the plateau. I would just be satisfied camping on the plateau or just below it and climbing as many peaks as we could. The 5 pass trip was quite a good introduction to that country, because then you knew 2 routes. And we didn't use a plane to get into the Olivines. That was considered to be bad form, really, even back in '72 when we first went in there, because you wanted to be able to find your way out. If you'd flown in and you didn't know how to get out, you were at a serious disadvantage if there was an accident. Happily had food dropped in by aircraft on the first 2 trips we went in there. After that, we thought, no, we'll carry everything on our backs. And Ross Davies was the main person arguing that we should do that. Great times, because we were self-contained. It meant we didn't have to worry about anybody else letting us down, and we had the routes in our heads because we'd done things like the 5 passes.
The iconic tramps, were going into the Rockburn Park Pass and Shangri-la over a Christmas. Walked in and it was pouring with rain, and Anthony coming out after 4 days of rain, looking like drowned rats, but we had 5 days of sunshine.
So the 2010 5 pass trip was my first, for me to go in there with Tracy, my dream in a way. And when Tracy got in there, of course, she was just blown away by the sheer peace and beauty of the place, and everything that I told her about, I think, came true, except for the campsites, Shangri-la. And she was just wrapped, even though she put in some really long days. She actually spoke at the Department of Conservation about the importance of wilderness, and used that trip as her main example, having been being like a tourist from England, having travelled through Asia and all the parts of the world where tourists go, and it's a bloody mad mayhem, to go to a place where you can just be in such peace.
Well, that was the hard thing. When I had the trip, I had 16 people at the end, and I had to divide them up into 2 groups of 8, which is 4 parties of 4. I did spend a lot of time trying to think which was the best way to do it. Obviously, you got couples who go together, so they sort of, a trip leader should be looking at compatibility. There is no friction between some people. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way it is. And ideally, you're looking at the fitness abilities or experience of putting those sort of people together. So you're not putting someone who wants to walk up a valley with the gun climber. You've got to use your judgment. I mean, the club's always going to attract a diverse range of people. Personal gear, pretty much you took the standard gear you take on a weekend trip, a couple of shirts, and didn't take any extra. The rest of the weight is food.
We dehydrated everything we could, and snacks and lollies and things was like in a little bag, and that was your daily ration. If you didn't eat today's ration, you'd have to eat twice as much tomorrow, and I don't think we were fanatical.
Before we went, we made sure that we had the very minimum of gear to make our packs really light. We had all that dehydrated food. We carried nothing but the bare minimum. And the joke of taking the handles off your toothbrushes to save weight, just about doing that kind of thing. One person in our party who eats a lot of food, and he could hardly lift his pack.
He had to lie on the ground and roll over.
Almost up to 30 kilo, maybe 30 kilo pack on day one, just pretty heavy on a hot day. We took 2-person tents. We did have 1 communal tent fly for the whole party in case it was a bit drizzly at night time for cooking. On the previous trip, we got caught in the rain and just below fiery cold and absolutely got soaked. Camping above the bushline so much, we'd just take tent. I mean, obviously, map and compass is second nature to some of our party.
You.
So, and
the PRB. And the radio.
They both got their benefits. A radio, you got 2-way conversation. Something help might be on its way. A beacon, you push the button and is it transmitting? Is it getting out the valley? But for radio, might have actually spoken to someone pretty well at camp, probably by 4 o'clock each night. So we had time to, tie it to the ice axes or up a tree or something. I don't think one way is easier than the other. I think there's a bit of debate between the 2 parties that we went the easy way, they got the hard way. I don't think there is an easy or hard way. We went anti-clockwise, so we started at Lake Sylvan. We had a lot of time to look around anyway. So we went up to Beansburn, up to Fonssaddle. We went over probably a wee pass between the Rockburn and the Dart. So it makes 6 passes. Got to the Rockburn hut. One had the tree through it recently, and then up the Dart. The river was higher than what we thought, so we actually got stuck in the bush line. It was probably the worst part of the trip, actually trying to just scoot around one of the banks. Our first night was in the big flats near the bottom of the Beansburn.
Richard lost a puffy pad.
He was at the back of the party. He was tied to the bottom of his pack on the outside.
But luckily I always carry 2. Well, I have my carry mat and my thermarest, so I gave him my carry mat. I was but I wouldn't let him carry it because I didn't trust him in the Beansburn.
There's 2 pairs of sunglasses. There's a Vermarest on that trip, at least that we know of, that got lost in. And then the second night was at the bivvy the big bivvy rock at the top of the Beansman.
We had a couple of hours sunbathing outside. We weren't
So that was
pushing
just to give us
ourselves.
some preparation for Fond Saddles.
We had a cruisy time.
But we really had very light packs, and we were skipping along in North Routeburn, thinking this is great. We made a really good decision carrying such light packs. We stopped for a break, and then this figure appears on the far distance, and steam rising from him finally collapses in a heap at our feet and says, "We're going to have to redistribute the gear, but my party are going too slow." Well, I'm afraid to say I wasn't very Christian about this, even though we were happy to carry gear that would be of use to us. We didn't really want to be carting the kitchen sink, and he was really loaded down, and I felt a bit sorry for him, but obviously concerned for his comfort. Well, it paid off a little bit when we got onto the snow of Sunset Peak. Tracy left sunglasses behind because we didn't think we'd be on snow that much, and he had like about spare 14 pairs, so she managed to borrow one of them.
Yeah, we had big packs from him. It was really hot.
That day we had lunch at Fond Lakes, and that was our whole day. We just sat around and enjoyed ourselves.
We knew we had 8 days, just biding our time. We knew how long different parts would take.
We'd done it before the last time, we'd done it a bit quicker, and I was like, we've got the weather, why don't we just enjoy it instead of push through it all?
We did the previous trip in 5 days.
Yeah.
So
We had one day of rain.
And we lost a whole day of rain.
24 hours of lying on your bed.
So we thought, no, we didn't get to Fond Lakes the first time. I mean, and there's a lot of people doing the 5 passes, and some of the areas are actually getting a pseudo type of track. You can go up from, like up towards Fond Saddle from the Beansman, there's almost a bit of a route at the bottom now, and there's a bit of a track going up to Park Pass from Hidden Falls Creek. I would personally be against any development anywhere in the area. No markers, you don't need them if you've got the right skills.
And then from Lake Nareen to Park Pass, and we camped just below Park Pass. That was our 4. The first group to Shangri-la, which they said was just another half hour further on. I mean, Richard, who'd been there 25 years earlier, said it was, as the name says, Shangri-la, beautiful camping spot, flat, grassy, and this nice little stream going past it. Highlight of the trip, yes. And the next day, at midday, Richard and Paul came up from Shangri-la to guide us. The only way down was to shin down a tree. There was this drop, and we had to shin down this tree with full packs on. And then the next step was this kind of waterfall with a very narrow slide, as it were, and we had to go down that. Before we dropped down, we looked at this Shangri-la, and all it was full of scrub. No grassy camping spot. Pushing our way through these spiky bushes to try and find a camping spot. Gordon, he's MacGyver man, and he brings out his pruning shears, and while Richard wasn't looking, because he's a real conservator, we cut an area and removed a few boulders as well, so we had a comfortable night that night.
You gave me the radio and says, you and someone else carry it, so I gave it to someone else in our party, and we had to carry it for 2 days, and then we swapped with someone else, gave it to them.
But we knew it was important.
We did.
So,
it was our entertainment too. I think Richard's party only listened to it every 2 or 3 nights. They didn't listen to it every night.
I mean, that kept us at Fond Lakes for another day because we could see the forecast was really good. We thought, well, we'll just stay here and do a day trip. So we did climb Sunset Peak and Fond Peak, 1 hour from the lakes. It's not hard. It's a Tramper's peak.
We sat up there for 2 hours. You sit there for half an hour looking this way, and then you sit there half an hour looking that way. It was nice.
We had to build the cairn. You got to have a big cairn.
We had a wee cairn about so big, and we built it so big.
You could see it from the camp. So we came back down to the lunch for camp, and then we thought, we'll go Fond, which is on the other side. I think our biggest failing was we had too much cooker fuel. Day 4, I think we worked out we had another 20 days of fuel left. Richard thought, going to run out of tea bags. And
yes, we decided then we could have more hot drinks, but you've only got so many tea bags.
So day 5.
That was quite a big day.
Yeah, we had to do 2 passes that day.
Considering
because we'd only done 1, and the other party would have done about 4 by then.
So we were a bit behind.
So we met a bunch of rowdy people on the Olivine Ledge from the Tramping club going the other direction.
But other than that, that was it really.
Well, that might have been in 2 groups. We were concerned about where the rest of their party might be. But they said, oh yeah, they're coming over the hill, they'll be behind us. And by that time there was a wee shower of rain did come through. They were coming up through the murk, through the snow, ranting and raving about this and that and the next thing.
Good 4 or 5 hours behind me.
Yeah. So they did plan to meet up at the rock on the Olivine Ledge, the rock bivvy. So I was a wee bit concerned that they weren't going to get back together, so I made a plan that we would actually call up on the radios between the two parties. Debbie did the talking for us, and she was talking to Gordon.
Like, Gordon, you're not supposed to use my numbers, you're supposed to say, like C14 calling C15.
So they'd met back up, and so we went over Fiery Coal, down towards Cow Saddle, coming that direction, it's not really a pass at all. Down Hidden Falls Creek, there's a huge flat, you had 100 tents in there easy. We camped there, and then we had a bit of a scramble down the river.
It was this mythical, magical place that didn't sound like it was.
And if you'd been there in the 70s, I can see how it probably would be, but when you're dragged along there in 2010, find there's nowhere to camp, and so no, we went pretty much straight to the bottom of Park Pass, found that last marker that Doug Forrester put me onto. We didn't need any special gear, I6.
We probably could have done with crampons, but
decision not to. No, we didn't need them. We knew there would be snow in North Cole, in the North Route Bend. We knew there would be some coming into Lake Marine, Fiery Coal at the top. We knew there would be some on the Cow Saddle side, but the track goes straight up to the pass. Last time we went down the Rockburn over Sugarloaf Pass, we'll go back up to Lake Marine. There's far more scenic route. Lake Marine and camped at Lake Marine on night 6. In the Moya Northern, he refers to that as unpleasantly steep snowgrass, which it is pretty steep, and if I'm doing a trip like that, I would read Moyas. I just read them for fun. When we did the 5 passes in 2010, in 2008, I relied heavily on Doug Forrester's notes that he'd given me from a previous trip that he'd done in the same direction, just more up to date, or things to look for in a language that I could really relate to. So I did a lot of tramping with Doug when I first joined, and so I sort of knew what he was talking about when he says, you see the coal, if you can see the coal up there, that's the wrong one, you've got to go around further to the left. And I'm, oh yeah, okay, take all those things on board. Bit of snow, bit of rain on it, it would be treacherous on the Rockburn side. We did have a bit of trouble coming over from, there's a lake clip on one side, you've got to go over this wee pass to get to Lake Marine, snow on there. Some people hadn't been on snow at all before. The guy, Tony, the new guy who tramping with us, he practices self-arresting on the water races around Earnscleugh on the grass. So we found a route down there between the bluffs. Apparently there was a pretty good route that the others had found going up, which was obvious from the lake, but we couldn't see it. We got down to the lake and a pretty good night there. Had a wander around. Another good day, so we went round just over and towards above Hidden Falls Creek again. There's a ledge that we failed to find a couple of times before that. But there is a good ledge that heads around towards North Cole. Beautiful up on North Cole, a bit windy, but great views. The sky was perfect. There was a lot of snow getting down into the North Route Bend. It was brilliant. Easy to walk on, piece of cake.
And then we got all the way down to the flats just before Falls Hut.
Some of them were a wee bit injured by then, so they had to slide down on their backside. And
what was called glissading is what I did. My knees had given away.
It was blisters. We had all kinds of trouble with our Achilles, was it, with Mike, and Richard had something wrong, and Tony had something wrong, and you had something wrong. A bunch of cripples.
The worst part of it, as always, is going down off on saddle, and that's relentlessly down. But in this particular occasion, I normally tramp in gumboots. I thought I shouldn't take gumboots on this trip because we might be doing a bit of snow, Sunset Peak or something. I wore these boots that weren't particularly comfortable, and on the descent into the Beansburn, I lost both of my big toe nails, separated part of the company from my feet, and they're quite sore really, and that was quite crippling. Some fools we'd been away with earlier I got hold of some nail polish and they had painted my toenails.
Then went down the North Route and we camped about half an hour above Flats Hut, and that was still nice, and then that night it did rain.
And it bucketed down.
So the next morning was a quick breakfast, piled the packs on, and probably when we did get a wee bit separated, we said we'll meet you at the hut. The boys going, oh, the river will be flooded, I won't be able to get across, so we'll keep an eye out for you, because Roy was just a wee bit slower in his packing.
And then we hit the route burn track and just
got to the road end and came and finding it. We were out by 10 o'clock, so we knew later the day that they were out.
And of course at the end of this 5-pass trip, we had such a magic combination of Rose and Paul and Tracy and me that we thought we could take on just about any trip anywhere. We all felt really good about tramping with each other.
So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey.
slew Goliath was, so they allege. The pebble he threw caused quite a ripple, but the pebble that lay on the Olivine ledge when David stood on it turned him into a cripple.
Marco?
In 1992, I lost my hat in the beans bin. Did you see it?
No.
So how often did you have sex on the trip?
Sex. I was in a tent fly with 3, if not 4 other people.